1999 through 2006 Mercedes CL500 hydraulic strut to coil spring conversion. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive. I'm going to walk you through that process.
So we're going to be installing a Strutmaster Kit on this Mercedes, and it comes with all 4 springs and struts, and also the module to wire in the computer to turn off the light on the dash. Okay, so I got the whole kit laid out here on the floor here. As you can see, it comes with 4 springs and struts, instruction manual, and the little module that we're going to wire into the computer to turn off the air ride light on the dashboard. To get started, what we're going to do is just get the vehicle racked up on the rack. Started by removing the front struts first. So on the bottom of the struts, there's going to be a set screw here, and then on the opposite side there'll be another set screw. We're going to get our little Allen socket and back those screws out. So I'm doing the passenger side first, so I went ahead and removed the set screws, and then after that I took a pry bar. So then I took my pry bar and I put it under the little ball joint right here, and resting against the control arm, I pried the control arm down and separated the so I separated the strut from the ball joint like that. So now we need to take off this front shield on the driver's side here, and we need to get to a fitting to bleed the pressure out of the hydraulic system before we disconnect it. So you're going to remove the 8mm bolts around here and just take off just this corner of the shield. So after getting the passenger or the driver's side corner shield off right here, you're going to look up and you're going to see this fitting here. And so I'll show you the brake rotor so you know where we're at. So if you look right here, you're going to open this fitting and let the hydraulic pressure bleed out. So you want to use a bucket or something to catch it, the fluid below. So when you crack this fitting open, it is going to spray a little bit. So I would recommend wearing safety goggles or something like that and being prepared for it to spray out. I did it with a socket, so it kind of sprayed in a pattern. If you can use a wrench, it may squirt straight down. So once you got the pressure bled off, you can go ahead and retighten the fitting, and then go ahead and put the shield back on. Okay, now that you got the hydraulic pressure bled out of the system, we need to get these quick disconnect the hydraulic lines to go to the air spring itself, or not the hydraulic spring itself. So these tend to get stuck, so they're going to pull back towards you. So you use pliers, maybe a screwdriver, and push on it, push away while you pull like this with pliers, and give it a kind of a twisting motion at the same time, and this will pop apart right here. So as you can see, I got my pliers here, and I'm going to pull towards me and kind of try to work it towards me. These things really do get stuck. So after you pull the quick connect back and get it disconnected, then what you're going to do is lower the vehicle down and go ahead and remove the top 3 bolts and remove the strut assembly out of the car. So you're going to, the hydraulic quick connect here is you just pull it toward you, and then I used a screwdriver and kind of pushed it out the back, and you can see the line is free now. So now you're going to remove the strut completely from the car. So now you're going to remove the 3 nuts on the top of the strut here. At the same time, you're going to reach your hand around here, and you're going to, as you take the last nut off, you're going to maneuver the strut out like this and out of the car. And when you get it out, you'll have to fish the hydraulic line that's mounted in there too. It'll kind of get snagged on the things. You kind of just work with this and maneuver it. So take your time. Before we put the strut back in, what we need to do is we need to get our little plug that comes with our kit that goes like that, and that'll go into the hydraulic line. So you'll pull your coupler back and then plug it in so it snaps. And then you want to give it a good tug, make sure it's now we're going to take our replacement strut and slip it back nose first, underneath the suspension and up into the hole here. Do it with the spring, with the end of the spring facing out towards me. So you're just going to nose it in there and stab the 3 holes through the top, and then reach over the top and start the bolts. Once you get the strut stabbed through, you can go ahead and tighten up the bolts, all 3. It's time to line up the little ball joint that goes into the bottom of the strut. So the way I did it is I used my pry bar, stuck it in the suspension like this, and I pried the arm down just enough where the ball joint lines up, and then you can push it in like that Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a pole jack. So now I'm going to put my pole jack underneath the lower control arm and screw it up until the pressure pushes up on the strut and it fully seats on the ball joint that it here. Now once it's fully seated, now I'm going to tighten up the set screws that it came with on the left and right side. Now that you got the set screws secure on both sides, that'll complete the front struts. Now we can go ahead and put the front wheels back on, and you can go ahead and move to the rear. So now we're at the rear struts, and the first thing we're going to do is, if you got your wheel off, you got your strut. I'm on the passenger side here. You can open this bleeder screw here and bleed the hydraulic pressure out of this line. And then on the opposite side, there'll also be a bleeder screw here. You're going to open that up and bleed the pressure out of it. And you definitely want to wear safety glasses because it could spray on you. So go ahead and open that up and bleed the hydraulic pressure out of the system. So once all the pressure is bled out like that, go ahead and close off the valve here. So after bleeding the fluid out of the hydraulic system, what I'm going to do now is on the lower control arm here, there's a level sensor, and I'm just going to remove this bracket here from underneath. There's a 13mm bolt. I'm going to take that off and take the bracket off. The reason why is we're going to take this lower control arm here and unbolt it and swing it down, and I don't want to damage the level sensor. If you ever decide to put it back to stock, everything's in working condition. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove the bolt that goes through the strut here, the nut and bolt that come, and then pull the nut out, and then I'm going to take the nut and bolt out here at the spindle here. Take that out, and then I'm going to loosen the bolt here at the back of the control arm, and then the lower control arm will swing downwards. So after getting the spindle bolt out, the strut bolt out, and the suspension level sensor unbolted, and then loosen the nut at the back, you swing the arm down, as you can see right here, and you can go ahead and do that for both sides. Now I got the lower control arm swinging down. What I'm going to do is lower the vehicle all the way down and go ahead and remove the top bolts for the strut itself and lower the strut down. It has a hydraulic quick coupler, but it's kind of up in here where we can't really get to it too well unless you take out the fender lining, but I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the strut out down in an area where I can let the hydraulic line come out with it, and then I'll disconnect the quick connect from it while it's down here in a more manageable area to work. Now that we got the car down, you need to get inside the back seat, and they have these two little faux they look like speaker covers. You're going to pop those up with a flat blade screwdriver and pop this cover out, and then what we're going to do is we're going to cut this sound barrier out with a razor blade, and that'll gain access to the top bolts of the strut. So after cutting the foam out, now as you can see, the electrical connector for the ride sensor. You're going to use your fingers, squeeze the tab, and pull that off. You want to be careful if you're using tools or anything not to hit the rear glass. Real easy to break it. So once you get the electrical connector off, there's going to be a bolt here, a bolt here, and then one right over here. 3 nuts. And you're going to remove all 3 of these nuts, and then the strut will drop down below. Okay, the best way to do this is to use a wrench and get the furthest one in, because there's not enough room to get a socket and a ratchet in here against the glass, or it's too risky. So what I do is slide the wrench underneath the foam pad here and crack the nut free. If you have a ratcheting wrench, it might work out really well. And then take that bolt off, and then once you get this nut off, and then you can take this nut off. You can use a regular ratchet and a short extension, and then once you get that one off, then it's easy to get the third one off here. This one's got plenty of room and clearance to do it. So the hardest one to get to is the one back here in the furthest corner. So I use a wrench with that one. After getting the 3 bolts from the strut tower here removed, we can go ahead and lift the vehicle back up and work the strut out and disconnect the hydraulic line. So now I let the strut slide down, and it's kind of wedged here against the suspension a little bit. I kind of swung the arm back up and hold it in place. So now it's in a more manageable area where I can pull the quick connect down. So you're going to kind of push the line. So you push the line up and push the line down, and at the same time pull the quick connect. What I like to do is get them free first, like with a pair of pliers, and kind of twist them up a little bit, They may even use the pliers itself to pry it down and pop the quick connect. You also want to pop this little rubber boot off. That helps aid in getting the quick connect loose. So as you can see, mine came loose there. Now you're just going to pull the hydraulic hose with your other hand and get it off. So now that the hose is disconnected, you just kind of let it flare up in here. Now what I'm going to do is with one hand hold the strut and finish and just swing the arm back down out of the way, and then the strut will come out. Before we install the strut, we need to install the plug that comes with the kit back into the hydraulic adapter here. So you're going to put it in there, pull the quick connect down like that, and then push the plug in. Push all the way in. You want to give it a little tug, make sure it doesn't pop back out. So now to put the new strut back in the car, you're going to need help. You're going to need somebody inside the vehicle with the nuts and bolts for the top. And what you're going to do is stab the strut from underneath up into the spot. And when you do this, so I slid the new strut up inside of the cavity here. Well, I had somebody inside the car start the bolts, and then you have to kind of twist the strut itself left and right. And as you see, I had the way it went in was with the spring perch, the end of the spring here facing towards you. And you also want to make sure that this is in the general area where it goes. You can probably twist it a little bit if you need to massage it to get in the car. So I got the strut started and just the bolts started. I didn't tighten them yet. I just got so now I'm going to lift the vehicle back up. I did both sides while he was in there. So now I'm going to lift the vehicle back up and reattach the lower control arm. Okay, so now I'm just going to swing the lower control arm back up in place, but first you're going to stab the ride level sensors here. So stab it through the lower control arm, and then you can rotate the control arm up. So the reason why I leave the bolt loose up top is now it gives me the wiggle room to maneuver the strut back and forth. So I'm going to lift it up into place, and then I'll start the bolt here. Before I stab the bolts through the lower control arm, I'm going to put a little of this blue thread locker made by Permanex on the threads. And what this does is helps prevent the bolts from vibrating loose and coming back off. So it's kind of like a little glue that you put on the threads. If you don't have this, it's available at my website at howtoautomotive.com on the tools and product page. So once you get the strut stabbed through the lower control arm like this, now you're going to need a pull jack like so, and you're going to screw the jack upwards and push the arm up, being careful not to overdo it and push the car off your rack. As you can see, I got a pry bar on top here, so you can use it. It's going over the top of the control arm like that, so you can pry down on the top control arm and line up the bolt hole here and stab your bolt through. Once you got the bolts stabbed through and all the washers on, go ahead and tighten them all down. So tighten the outer one, the strut, and the inner bolt for the control arm, and then the sway bar, the level sensor bracket. Go ahead and tighten all that down. So after the struts, the lower control arms are all bolted up and tight. Now we just need to secure the hydraulic line out of the place, and also want to make sure that you got the caps on the end of it. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck up behind this plastic shielding here, maybe drill a hole into the plastic shielding here, and then zip tie it over here. You don't want to put it on the strut itself because it's a moving part and it'll make rattling noises and stuff like that. So I'm going to drill a couple holes in the lining here and zip tie it to the lining here. So now we're just going to tighten up the 3 bolts on the top of the struts, and then put our covers back on. And that'll complete the mechanical part of converting your hydraulic struts to coil spring struts. So after converting our struts to coil springs, we need to install the module to turn this light off on the dash. We started wiring the new module in to turn the light off on the dash. We need to open the hood, and on the driver's side we need to remove this fuse box panel by sliding the lock tabs back. We're going to leave our battery connected, but we're going to make sure the key is turned off in the off position. Okay, I'm going to get started by go ahead and put the heat shrink on the wires, and then the butt connectors on the module side here. We're going to unplug the 2 green wire, which is the small little connector here. This is the communication wires for the module, according to the Strutmaster instructions here. So we're going to pop this up, and we're going to cut these 2 wires off, and we're going to splice the 2 green wires on our module here onto it. Okay, after cutting the plug off and stripping the wire back, the green wire, that solid green wire, is going to connect with your module has the solid green wire. So the green wire with the white stripe, you're going to connect that with the wire on the module here with the green and yellow stripe. So they're going to connect together. Now that the green wires are connected, now the next one in this big plug right here, we're going to fish out the brown wire here, cut it in half. Okay, once you cut the wire, not the wire going into the plug, but the wire going back into the harness is the wire you want to strip and connect the brown wire to the brown wire. Now you want to fish through and find the yellow wire with the white stripe, and we're going to separate it too. So you're going to splice the yellow and white wire to the red wire going into the harness, not going into the plug. And then once you complete that, what you're going to do is you're going to start the car and check the readings on the dash, make sure all the lights are out and everything looks good. You're just going to secure your module here in the box. Go ahead and put your heat shrink on and shrink that down, and that'll complete the installation on a 1999 through 2006 Mercedes CL 500. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos and encourage you to subscribe for more valuable videos like this, and check out the website at howtoautomotive.com. Thank you again.